Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. Today I had the pleasure to speak with Donovan Corneetz. You've heard Donovan's voice on The Today Show, Fox Sports West, CW, BET, VH1, video games, and many commercials. We talked about how he got his big break on The Today Show, tips for those who want to get into the voiceover business, how being yourself can get you the next big gig, and how he met the legend, the one and only legend. I won't tell you who, and you won't believe how much he sounds like him. So sit back and enjoy another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. All right, welcome to the show, the one and only Donovan Corneetz. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I am excited you're on the show. Thanks for taking the time and being on the show. What's keeping you busy during this pandemic?
What's not keeping me busy? I've been very fortunate that throughout this kind of COVID quarantine nonsense, my actual voiceover career has flourished. I've been busy with that. And then, of course, there's family aspect and homeschools and stuff because of schools being closed. So I've got a whole lot keeping me busy.
The homeschool thing is real. I actually just made, remember the string and the foam, the string and the cup thing?
Oh, cup, yeah.
Yeah, I just did that. Thank you to the University of YouTube for that, because that's where I live nowadays. And I'm so thankful for all the teachers out there. I can't believe how hard it is and what they go through. So thanks to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. I'm very fortunate that my wife is able to kind of handle them with the schooling. I have two kids, two boys, and being able to kind of handle them with the Zoom classes and stuff and their assignments while I'm in my studio kind of recording all day. So it's been wild, but this is the new normal for right now. So we're dealing with it. Absolutely.
And I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina, your old stomping ground, like we were talking earlier, where you actually started doing voiceovers. Tell our listeners about your days here in Raleigh. You're the NC State alum, and about how you started doing voiceovers in your dorm. That's a really cool story.
By the way, go Wolfpack. But yes, I started in voiceover while still a student there and living in the dorm. I found out about voiceover kind of twofold. One, while being part of WKNC, the student radio station there at NC State University. And then I had a professor that did voiceover on the side, and he kind of talked about it. And he was the first person that really kind of guided me and said, if you're serious about it, this is what you need. I mean, I had no idea. He said, do you have a demo? I said, what's a demo? Like, I had no clue what anything was. And then, for me practicing, it was literally me with a $25 microphone on a TV dinner table in my bathroom in my dorm with blankets push pinned to the wall in front of me and also draped over the shower curtain rod. And that's how I recorded, sitting on the toilet, recording with my mic and my copy on a TV dinner table. Because I thought, that was the only place I could get some sort of isolation. And I'm sure it all sounded horrible, but that's how I got my start. That's how I kind of started practicing. And it was at least another year or so before I actually got paid to do a voiceover. But the seed had been planted for sure.
That is awesome. I think most of us voice actors do that. I have turned a walk-in closet before into a studio.
Yep, I had a walk-in closet too. Yep.
And they work. And for those getting into the world of voiceover, you can make it happen with a blanket. And just I think that's a great story you told. And tell us about your first big gig as a voiceover.
First big gig, I don't know how to describe like big, but I'll say like my first paying gig, which was big, for me, was I had a character in a video game called head coach by EA Sports, and I played assistant coach. So
Awesome.
second most important character in the game. I was at this point, I know I was really underpaid for it. I was paid $100 for an 18-page script. But at the time, this was in 2005. I was just so happy that someone was paying me to speak that I mean, I was so thrilled about it that I did like a photo shoot with the check. And I still have those pictures, and I have a photocopy of that first check still in my office. And it's like a constant reminder of never lose that excitement
Yes.
and that thrill that I had from that $100 check that should have been way more. But at the time, I didn't know any better, and I probably wouldn't have turned it down anyway at that point in my life. So yeah, it's just kind of one of my prized possessions is this photocopy of this $100 check that I got, because that's kind of what started everything. And then I would say like the next time that I had like a big gig that really changed things in my career was I did the in-show announcing, which was all pre-recorded, but I did the in-show announcing and promos for Justin Bieber's roast on Comedy Central.
Yes,
And
I love that one.
yeah, and that was actually like a really funny one. And so I was the announcer for that, and I did the promos for it, the intro for it. And that was like my first big gig. And I had done some stuff before that, and that was like my first big union job, even though I wasn't, union at the time. But it was just a really huge opportunity for me, and it kind of propelled me forward to a lot more opportunities.
I love it. I love it. And every morning I wake up, I'm a Today Show fan myself. I wake up, grab my coffee, and who do I hear? You. I mean, how did you land the Today Show one? That's probably one of the most, commercials that I remember you by too.
Yeah, I mean, that has been a byproduct of me being the voice of the Today Show. Has been a byproduct kind of coronavirus and stuff. So it's kind of wild to have had such a great benefit from such a terrible circumstance. But the truth is that gig was 10 years in the making. There was a voiceover competition during a voiceover conference called That's VO. And they had this audition spotlight where people could, you enter to try to get a chance to do this audition in front of, these judges. And then you would try to make it to a second round where you had to read the promos on stage in front of the whole conference, a few hundred people. And then the winner got like a month or two, I think it was like a month of representation at a reputable LA agency. You got a TLM 103 microphone, and you got to voice a real affiliate promo. So it was a really cool prize. And I was still fairly new in my career, and I ended up coming in second place. I made it to the finals, and they had a runoff between me and another talent, and I ended up losing to that other talent. But one of the judges was a production manager, lead producer for NBC News. And so I took that opportunity to get to know her, and I made the connection even though I lost. And we kept in touch for years. And, I wasn't trying to stress her out about hiring me. It really became like a true friendship. And then, about 9.5, 10 years later, she finally had an opportunity that she thought I'd be good for. It was a couple of one-offs here and there I was doing for certain guests on the Today Show, and some concert spots here and there. And then kind of didn't hear much after that. So I just figured like, hey, that was a cool experience. And whenever it comes up again, I'd love to have the opportunity again. And then the whole thing with COVID hit, and they kind of made a switch, and they made me the voice of their coronavirus coverage. And then that kind of turned into being the voice of the Today Show.
It's awesome that, especially that you're here from Raleigh and you get to see you on TV now, and you got to achieve, that big goal. And, I want to say you do amazing work on most of the commercials that I see. So big shout out to you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
And if for you, what is your favorite projects to work on? If you could work film, commercials or like video games? What would you choose if you could, choose one?
Oh man. You know what's there's different reasons that I would pick different things, but if I'm going just purely on what for me is the most fun, I'll be honest with you. Like, I really love doing promos, and I feel so blessed, so fortunate that I've been able to make most of my living on doing promo, because that was one of my dreams. And I just truly enjoy it. I mean, it can be something different every day, even within the same day. I'm able to work with multiple clients on different networks for different shows, different campaigns. So I truly, truly love it. And I really do enjoy it. I mean, video games are fun and stuff. They're they're very labor intensive. I don't know if people realize like how much work goes into being a main or major character in a video game, especially one that involves exertion sounds and fighting and swinging weapons and all that kind of stuff, and screaming and dying. And like, it's very trying and very taxing on your voice. Now, of course, the other side of it is very cool, where you kind of get the notoriety and the different levels of fame for being in different video games. But for me, I think the most fun, I gotta say, it's doing promo. I really, really love it.
That's awesome. And you work with a lot of voiceover workshops, right?
Well, I've done a few for promo where I've kind of helped people out with getting them kind of introduced to what the world of promo is about, and kind of what to expect, and then how to also do better auditions, have better auditions in the promo realm, so that you have a better shot at booking things. And I've done a few of those where it's kind of like an intro to promo workshop.
Okay, absolutely. And so for those wanting to get into the world of voiceover, what advice would you give to them? If you were to go back in a time machine to yourself in college, what advice would you give to yourself that you know now?
Well, first and foremost, do the research. Like, research what you're getting into, right? And I actually did do that on the prompting of that professor I told you about. But I mean, there's books and online resources, and I think too many people pursue it because they see it as like a quick buck or easy money or something that's just cool because you can do it from home and all that stuff once you have a home studio. But I think people really don't understand the scope of what it takes to be successful, especially when you're not in a New York or LA. Like I was, in Raleigh and Durham, when I was building my career up from the ground. And so there's a lot more involved than just having a good voice and a microphone, because I say it all the time. I'm far from the only guy with a deep voice and a microphone. That's not enough to stand out. You have to research what it is to be a better auditioner, what it's like to market yourself, put yourself out there, network, build relationships, have a web presence, demos, practice, get coaching. All of these things all go into really, really doing the research to make sure that you know what you're getting into, and that you realize this is not a quick money scheme at all. It takes years for almost everyone to actually even begin to gain traction. So I would say, number one, do your research about the industry itself and about the craft of acting. Another thing is, people don't realize how much acting is involved. It's not just reading out loud. And then I think the next step is, of course, you got your research in, you start doing your training, your coaching, to improve your skill set. It's, again, more than just reading out loud. There's breath control, there's script interpretation, there's mic technique, there's knowing, when to emphasize things, when not to, breath control. All of these things go into it, and you can learn all of those things with a great voiceover coach. And I think the other big advice is to be patient. I think a lot of people quit, or they just determine, I was a failure at it, because they're expecting too much too fast. And that's just not how it goes. Like I said earlier, it took me about a year or more before I actually got paid. And that was still only $100. The first year that I did voiceover, that, in air quotes, professionally, I made $500 in a whole year.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And that, knowing that at the time, of course, I had my regular, my day job, because, no one can support themselves on $500 a year.
Right.
But just knowing that it's got to start somewhere, and you have to love it. You have to love the grind of it, the hustle, the nonstop work that it takes to build. I was just as thrilled about being in it, making $500 a year, as much as I am now, even more so, because you start to reap the rewards of all the work and practice and hustle that you did those years ago. So yes, do your research, get great coaching, and be patient.
Great advice. Great advice. And I guess I'm going to piggyback on that with that advice. A lot of voiceovers online actually support one another, and I think that's great. If you probably see that, like, they'll give a lot of tips online, but there's really no bad feedback to one another on like social media. I noticed that as a voiceover. Sometimes you'll post something, you'll post a demo, and you're like, oh my gosh, am I going to get blasted? But then like what you're saying, it's about learning how to get better. So it's kind of a learning curve. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's the other part of that learning curve. Like you said, I mean, yes, it's a great overall. I mean, vast majority of people in the industry are very supportive, very helpful. There's not too many divas and stuff. Some of the people that are in the bigger cartoons and movies and stuff are just harder to get access to, but it's not that if you didn't have access to it, that
Right.
they would not help you. It's just, they're gotten a little too famous to be accessible to everyone. But I think it's very important to realize that there's also another side to when people are always telling you like, oh, that sounds great, your demo is great. Like, there's sometimes your demo is not great. And I mean, I think people need to be honest, especially when you first start out. Like, my first demo, I let that professor hear what I thought was a demo. And the very first bit of critique that I ever got in my voiceover career from somebody that wasn't like, my own mom, who was saying, oh, your voice sounds great, was this professor. And he said, this is probably the worst demo I've ever heard. And I was like,
Wow.
okay. He said, but it's not that you don't have any talent, you just don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
so,
good advice.
yeah, so your job is not to try and, sound better and sound like a voiceover guy. Like, you need to learn more about what it takes to be successful, what it takes to be a good voice actor. And that advice has stayed with me my entire career, because sugarcoating it and telling everyone, oh yeah, that's great, it sounds good, is not going to help anyone. When they actually need help, when they actually need assistance and guidance, that needs to be said. So it can kind of be a two-edged sword, as they say, because yes, everybody is supportive, especially when people are kind of new, but then there's also a side of it where this isn't for everybody. There is
Right.
no career, there is no occupation that is for everybody. And there are certain people that even if they could be successful, that they won't do what it takes to be successful in it. Like, I've seen people online that refuse to get coaching. They don't see why they have to pay someone else for their expertise when they could just get it themselves. It's like, well,
Right.
good luck
Right.
with that,
Absolutely.
Or they want to only make their own demos. And unless you are a professional demo producer, you really need to have someone else, an unbiased ear, do your demos. I did my first 2 demos, and that would be another piece of advice. Like, dude, do not do your own demos,
Love it.
But I was so poor back then. I couldn't afford, the big money stuff, but I could have had somebody make a demo for me that would have been better than what I did. So yeah, it's about not just, I mean, the support is great, don't get me wrong, and people are willing to give information, but also know that there are some things you need to have the tough love and the harsh honesty if warranted.
Yeah. Hopefully your professor isn't listening. He's going to send you an invoice for coaching.
No, I'm still good friends with him to this day, and yeah, we're still in contact, and he knows very well how much he's meant to my career. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your VoLife Clothing line that you're the founder of. I think that's awesome, and if you could tell our listeners a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So it actually was based off an idea that I had probably in like 2010, which is when I started going full time for VO, which translates to, that's when I got laid off from the 9 to 5 that I had. And I had an idea for a t-shirt that said I love VO in the style of the I love New York shirt. So I had kind of something drawn up, and I don't have any real like Photoshop experience or anything like that, but it's just something I kind of put together, had the idea, but I didn't really go anywhere with it. And then fast forward to a couple years ago, I don't know, that the idea kind of came back. It was kind of nagging at me. And I was in a much better position financially to be able to, invest into it. And so, yeah, I started really coming up with all the designs. Every design on VoLifeClothing.com is something that I came up with, that I did myself, and had put all the designs together and decided, what colors and stuff like that. And the VoLife, the hashtag VoLife logo that kind of tied into a hashtag that was already really popular on social media. And so I decided, why not kind of piggyback the clothing onto the already popular VoLife, which I remember, I wasn't the first one, but I was one of the early people to use VoLife as a hashtag on like Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And so I said, well, why not tie it into that? And you kind of realize that a lot of different professions have some sort of gear or logo or something that they're proud of. And I said, well, in voiceover, by nature, we are isolated. We're in our dark padded rooms talking to ourselves. And when we go out into the world, no one knows what the hell we do, right? And so I said, well, why not have something that we could outwardly show pride for what we do as a profession and what we have as an industry? And so that's kind of what led to VoLife Clothing becoming a thing. And I do still have the I Love VO as a design that you can get now. It's a little bit different than when I first did it, 10 years ago, but it's still there as one of the many designs you can get on, again, VoLifeClothing.com.
Love it. I love it. And a couple more questions. I guess growing up, who was some of your favorite voice actors growing up? Like, who inspired you to want to get into the world of voice acting?
So, you know what? I'm assuming I'm a bit different in this aspect, that like I had no idea about voiceover growing up. Like, I was a fan of cartoons and stuff, of course, as a child, but I had no idea about the industry. When I was going to school, I was actually originally in college to be a chiropractor. And it really wasn't until the whole radio thing in college and learning about it, like, that's somebody's job to be that voice on that commercial, or, on that audio book or whatever. Like, I totally had no idea. So the only thing that I really knew about were like movie trailers, where I said, man, that's really cool. So of course I knew about Don LaFontaine, and I got to meet him back in 2006.
No way. Oh my God.
Yeah, I met him in 2006 at a conference, and he was really nice. And his voice was ridiculous.
Can you do his voice?
Regular. I mean, I don't think I can do it justice, But the classic "In a World," that whole.
That was good. That was good.
Thanks. And I think it's one of those things that, like, almost every guy, and probably women too, like, one of their dreams is, I want to do a movie trailer one day, one man. And, and it's like one of those things you kind of practice to yourself. So he was the only person that I outwardly knew, because he used to do, I think it was Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, one of those video rental places, showing my age, right? But he did a couple of actual on-camera commercials for them, where I think the movie was Scream 2 was coming out. Somebody was going to rent it, and they tapped on the counter because they were like, hey, can you tell me about this movie? And they tapped on the counter, and then Don LaFontaine comes out from under the counter, and he's like, oh, okay. And he does the actual voice for Scream 2. And then he goes right back to like sitting under the counter. And I remember seeing that, like, damn, that's him. Like, that's cool. So he's like I know that's a very cliche answer, is Don LaFontaine, but that was really my only person that I knew about in voiceover. So I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I always knew about this person and this lady and this person from Hanna-Barbera and this person. And I had no idea it even existed. I just, lived, I consumed it, but I had no idea what I was consuming. I didn't know anything about it. So that would have to be mine, because I just was not in tune with voiceover at all until I was like 23 23, 24 years old, 22, somewhere around there. So, I mean, maybe even my late teens that I even knew what it was, but I still didn't care about it. Like I said, I wanted to be a chiropractor.
Well, your voice, you have a very distinctive voice, and it's very cool. Like you can like, just talking to me, there's a lot of voiceovers who change the voice. You can really tell you don't. And that's what I like about your voice. You know what I mean? You can have a conversation and you have like that Don LaFontaine voice where he really didn't change his voice because, if you heard him have an interview, he still sounded like his voice.
Yeah, his regular speaking voice was incredible.
So, yeah. So any big
project? You know what? Really quick, I want to say I appreciate you saying that, but I think that's another really important piece of advice to give to people that are new or wanting to get into it is stop trying to sound like what you think you should sound like to be a voiceover artist. Like be yourself. Of course, you can manipulate your voice, go a little bit deeper, a little bit higher, more energy, more smile, all of that stuff, of course. But a lot of times you meet people and they're like, "Hi, I'm a voiceover." And you're like, "All right, dude, no one talks like that. Like, cut it out."
That's
like,
funny.
Again, it goes back to when you get to this day and age now, and microphones and computers and home studios are so in the norm now, they're so accessible for everybody. Again, having a good voice and a microphone is like no one cares. You know what I mean? Like everyone does. At this point, we all have good voices and microphones. Whether that's deep, whether that's higher, nasally, doesn't matter. We all have great voices and microphones. So be yourself, because that is the only thing that you truly have that makes you stand apart from anyone else, is that you are you.
And that's what
outside of that,
coach.
yeah. I mean, you get the coach and they help you to actually use your voice in different ways and learn how to be a better performer. But I draw the analogy, like, you can have a great voice and the $2,000 microphone, but having a Ferrari you don't know how to drive is really useless. So
Absolutely.
you need to be able to use all of those things, and you use those in the right way by, of course, the research and the coaching. But yes, be yourself. Stop. I wish more people would start off without trying to sound like what they think they should sound like, and really just be themselves.
Absolutely. Great advice. My coach, I can say it. My coach is my wife. She was in TV over 15 years, and she'll let me know. And I love honest feedback. And I've done commercials where I had to be like the game show host and other ones. But when I first started out, I was trying to sound like the radio DJ, and she was like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. And I did what she said, exactly what you said. I was myself, and some of my best projects were talking normal. So I totally love the advice.
Maybe 20, 30 years ago, maybe that would have been the case where, you'd have to come in and speak like this and all that stuff. But nowadays, for the last at least 10 to 15 years, like it's all about getting more and more progressively, the conversational, non-announcery stuff we see on audition specs all the time.
Yep.
And that's how you do it. You be yourself. That's how you're conversational, and that's how you manipulate your voice to sound like a real person. Because the hardest kind of acting is to act like you're not acting.
Yep. Any big projects coming out for yourself you can talk about?
Well, let's see. I'm trying to think. Okay. I can say that I will be the voice of Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. That's going to be starting up in week 5 of the NFL season. So that's really cool. And I can't give any details, but I did recently book my first movie trailer. So I'm really excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. So we're going to do something I call the audition challenge. I think you'll like this. And then so what I basically do with the guests is it's really fun. So I'm going to give you a script, and you can choose the voice of a cartoon voice, a horror voice, or an impression, like another voiceover or whatever. And you ready for the script?
Yeah.
All right, here it is. Oh, no, it can't be. The world is out of coffee until 2022.
Out of coffee. So this is going to really be acting here, because I'm not a coffee drinker. So I've got to really tap into my acting chops here.
All right.
Till 2022. Okay. Do I have to tell you what it is up front?
No, I'll try to guess.
I think it'll probably be pretty easy.
Okay.
Oh, wait, can I do Can I do like an accent?
Anything you want to do.
All right. Oh no, it can't be. No, the world is out of coffee until 2022. No.
I love it. That is awesome. That is awesome.
That is my accent I used as the talking coconut and the almond joy ads that have been running for like 2.5 years. So
wow. There you go. I love it. I love it. So before we leave, how could one hire you, and how could one get some VoLife Clothing?
All right. So as far as hiring me, by the way, congratulations on having excellent taste. But if you wanted to, it would be donovanvo.com is my website. That's DONOVAN and then VO.com. You can also check out some of my work on social media. It's Donovan_VO. And then as far as VoLife Clothing, it is very easy, VoLifeClothing.com. So VoLifeClothing.com, and there's all kinds of stuff there, t-shirts, hats, water bottles, mugs, socks, all kinds of stuff, hoodies. So yeah, there's tons of stuff there, really cool designs. And as always, I appreciate the support of everyone so far that has been proudly wearing their VoLife gear. And posting about it. It's really been an overwhelming kind of experience to see so many people proudly wearing things that I kind of came up with, in this brain of mine. And I'm so happy to kind of give the industry something where we can kind of wear as a proud badge of what we do and who we are.
Love it. I love it. And Donovan, this is my first podcast, and I like to get feedback. As a guest, what would you give it? What would you say about the show?
No, this is good, man. This is it's really easygoing. I kind of like the audition challenge getting thrown in there. Was not expecting that, but that's cool. So no, it's good. You got great energy and really friendly and stuff. So I think you're on the right path for sure.
Thank you so much, Donovan. It's so cool that you're on the show. I love following you on Instagram. I love watching all your work. You are the best. Ladies and gentlemen, Donovan Corneetz.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am so happy to be a part of it. I'm really thrilled that you asked me about being a guest here, and I wish you all the best with all your future guests.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.